A 68-year-old man in Kyoto used to wake up 4 times a night, every night, for 11 years. No pills, no melatonin, just a routine his grandmother taught him, and by month 3, his blood pressure numbers had dropped enough that his own doctor asked what he changed. If you laid in bed at 2 a.m. doing math on how many hours of sleep you'll get if you fall asleep right now, this is going to sound familiar. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly what he changed in order starting tonight. Here's the part nobody explains when they hand you a melatonin bottle. Melatonin doesn't put you to sleep. It just tells your body it's dark outside. If the actual reason you're waking up at 3 a.m. is a stress hormone spike, a supplement that only manages darkness, signaling is never going to touch it. That's the gap. It's the same gap a set of low-tech, centuries-old Japanese habits were built to close long before anyone had a word for cortisol. Let's start with why you're actually waking up, because it's rarely just bad sleep. It's usually one specific hormone doing exactly what it evolved to do at exactly the wrong time. Cortisol is supposed to spike once in the morning to wake you up. That's normal. The problem is a second cortisol spike, and researchers who study shift workers and chronic stress have repeatedly linked disrupted cortisol rhythms to belly fat storage specifically, not just weight gain in general, because cortisol tells your body to hold fat around the abdomen as an emergency reserve. So if you've noticed weight settling at your midsection no matter what you eat, and you're also waking at 3 or 4 a.m., those two things are reportedly connected far more often than people assume. Nothing about your body is broken here. A single hormone is just stuck in a loop, and the loop is worth understanding before anyone tries to fix it. That loop shows up in more places than the scale. Cortisol running high in the evening also tightens blood vessel, which is one reason people managing borderline blood pressure often see their morning numbers creep up during stretches of bad sleep, even when nothing else in their routine has changed. Walk that same person through a week of full, unbroken nights, and it's common for those morning readings to settle back down on their own. No medication or adjustment involved. Mobility follows a similar pattern. Stiff mornings, the kind where the first 10 steps out of bed feel like they belong to someone 20 years older, track closely with how much deep sleep happened the night before. Because deep sleep is when a lot of tissue repair and joint fluid circulation actually happens. Skip it consistently and stiffness compounds day after day, whether or not anyone connects the dots back to 3 a.m. Cholesterol gets pulled into the same mess. Deep sleep is when the liver does a large share of its overnight processing, including the work that affects circulating LDL and HDL levels. Chronic short sleep has been associated with worse lipid panels in multiple population studies, independent of diet. That detail alone surprises most doctors' patients when they hear it for the first time. Poor sleep raises evening cortisol. Raised cortisol keeps blood sugar elevated overnight, because cortisol's whole job is releasing stored glucose for a threat that isn't actually there. Elevated blood sugar overnight is one of the more common and more overlooked reasons for that specific 3 a.m. wake up that doesn't feel like normal waking. It feels like your body flipped a switch. Then elevated blood sugar and cortisol together keep low-grade inflammation running constantly in the background. And that's exactly what tends to surface later as morning joint stiffness, as knee pain that's noticeably worse the day after a bad night, sometimes even as blood pressure and cholesterol numbers that won't move no matter how clean the diet gets. Some longer running study on sleep-deprived adults have also tracked slower reaction times and a kind of daytime mental fog. The walk into a room and forgot why feeling that tends to clear within days once the sleep pattern actually corrects. It's rarely framed as a sleep problem when it shows up. It gets chalked up to age or stress or just a bad week, when the overnight hormone spike is often sitting underneath it the entire time. One hormone running out of control at the wrong hour. Half a dozen downstream complaints. Same root cause underneath all of them. So the actual target was never fall asleep faster. The real target is getting that evening cortisol spike to stop happening in the first place. This is where the Japanese approach splits off from almost everything sold in a Western pharmacy aisle because it barely touches the brain directly. It works the body first on the theory that the nervous system will follow the body's lead, not the other way around. There's a fourth piece hiding underneath the other three, and it's the one people skip because it doesn't feel like a bedtime ritual at all. It's a short evening walk taken after dinner rather than before, usually somewhere in the range of 15 to 20 minutes at an easy pace. The timing matters more than the distance. A walk right after eating blunts the blood sugar spike from that meal, which means less glucose circulating when cortisol comes looking for it later that night. It also happens to be one of the more consistent low-effort habits linked to steadier digestion, since a gut that's still working overtime on a heavy meal at midnight is rarely a gut that lets the rest of the body power down. None of this needs to be dressed up as exercise. It's closer to a built-in decompression lap between dinner and the rest of the routine. The first piece is temperature, and it's oddly specific. Traditional Japanese bathing culture, the evening ofuro soak, gets time for a reason that's easy to overlook. Relaxation is a side effect. The real target is a temperature drop. Core body temperature has to fall for deep sleep to begin. That part is basic physiology everywhere. But a hot soak, roughly 40 to 42 degrees Celsius, taken about 90 minutes before bed, raises core temperature first, and the body's rebound drop afterward comes sharper and faster than it would have on its own. Sleep researchers studying this exact window have found it can meaningfully shorten the time it takes to fall asleep. Not a lukewarm 5-minute rinse. A real soak timed 90 minutes out, so the crash lands right as you're climbing into bed. If a full bath isn't realistic on a weeknight, there's a scaled down version. A hot foot bath, 10 to 15 minutes, water as hot as you can comfortably stand. The feet carry an unusually dense concentration of blood vessels close to the skin, which is why warming them specifically triggers close to the same core temperature rebound as a full soak. It's the version most Japanese households actually lean on when there's no time for the ofuro. Temperature alone won't stop a mind still spinning through tomorrow's problems, though. That's a nervous system issue, and it needed its own separate fix. That fix is a breathing pattern, and the version most tied to Japanese practice sit close to what's sometimes called 4-7-8 breathing, though its roots run further back into Zen breath training used for centuries to pull the body out of fight or flight. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Out through the mouth for 8. Slow, like fogging a mirror. The extended exhale is doing the actual work. A longer exhale than inhale physically activates the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is the direct switch that pulls a nervous system out of alert mode. Heart rate drops, muscles let go, one group at a time, almost without trying. 4 rounds, that's the whole thing. A noticeable shift by round 3 is common enough that it's the benchmark taught alongside the technique. Now here's the piece almost nobody selling sleep advice ever mentions, because it doesn't happen at bedtime at all. It happens hours earlier, mid-afternoon, in a practice called inamuri, lucidly sleeping while present. Picture a short, seated, fully clothed rest, 10 to 20 minutes, taken in public without anyone treating it as unusual, closer to dozing at your desk than an actual Western-style nap. Historically, a signal you'd work hard enough to need it. The actual function runs deeper than the cultural story, though. A short mid-afternoon rest can drain a measurable amount of accumulated sleep pressure and cortisol early, before it builds into a single dump at bedtime, which sounds backwards, but there's less to burn off later once some of it's already been released. Skip that valve entirely, and the whole day's pressure lands on the nervous system at once, right around the time the lights go off. That's usually the exact moment people describe as lying there wired, exhausted, and unable to shut off at the same time. Put those 4 pieces together in order, and you get the actual routine. Right after dinner, the 15 to 20 minute walk, easy pace, no phone in hand. Mid-afternoon, on the days the schedule allows it, 10 to 20 minutes, seated, present. 90 minutes before bed, the hot soak or the hot foot bath if a full bath isn't practical. Temperature push up on purpose so it crashes on schedule. Then, once you're in bed, 4 rounds of the 4-7-8 braid, stretching that exhale until the vagus nerve does its job. 4 fixes covering 4 different systems: blood sugar and digestion, the day's total cortisol load, body temperature, and the autonomic nervous system. Each one closes a different door cortisol was using to keep you up. This is the part that loops back to everything else. Fix that evening cortisol spike consistently, and the chain reaction runs in reverse. Lower evening cortisol tends to mean steadier overnight blood sugar. Steadier overnight blood sugar means fewer of those jolt awake at 3 a.m. nights. Lower baseline inflammation from consistently deeper sleep is what several longer sleep studies have tied to easier morning joint mobility, and measured over months, modestly better blood pressure and cholesterol readings, plus a gut that tends to settle down once cortisol stops flooding it every evening. That's the same version a grandmother in Kyoto ran nightly for decades, generation after generation, without a single supplement bottle in the house. There's a reason this particular set of habits held up for so long without any of the science behind it being written down. It doesn't fight the body. A pill overrides a signal. This routine removes the reason the signal was firing in the first place, which is a completely different kind of fix, slower to notice, but harder to lose once it's actually in place. None of this is a guarantee and result vary person to person the way anything involving hormones tends to. If there's a diagnosed sleep disorder involved, sleep apnea especially, this doesn't replace a doctor. It sits alongside one, not instead of one. But if your version of a bad sleep has always been the falling asleep is fine, staying asleep is the actual problem kind, there's now a clear reason why, and 3 specific things done in that specific order, built centuries ago to fix exactly that. Tonight is the easiest possible test. Skip the afternoon rest if the schedule doesn't allow it. Just try the bath and the breath back to back and pay attention to what time you actually wake up. So here's the real question underneath all of this. A pill gets reached for because it's fast, and the routine gets skipped because it feels like 90 minutes nobody has to spare. The routine was never really about the 90 minutes though. It was about giving a body permission to stop treating bedtime like a threat every single night. Is the bottle from the pharmacy actually solving that, or just quieting it down for one night at a time? If you tried a piece of this before and it didn't stick, say which one in the comments, and the next video walks through exactly how to troubleshoot it.